Welcome in everybody to another edition of Major Push Wrestling, where we give wrestling the major push that it deserves. I am your host, Gino of Gino's Best, Papa Gino 0017, and I am joined today by C Rod. How you doing today?
Doing well, brother. Good to be back. I know it's been a few weeks. I've been personally traveling. I know you have been as well, and
Mhm.
excited to talk wrestling again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your patience, everybody. Don't forget to leave a comment on what we're discussing today. We've got a pretty good show planned for you today. I don't know if we're going to get to all the topics, but we really wanted to address this specific topic today. As the video title tells you, last year WWE did something that caught me by surprise. We've had multiple time inductees to the Hall of Fame because they're in a faction or what have you, and things like that, tag teams. But last year was the first year we got an actual wrestling match inducted into the Hall of Fame. And as we all know, it was Bret Hart, or not Bret Hart, excuse me. Yes, Bret Hart versus
Yeah.
Stone Cold. Sorry, I was doing all my research and Shawn Michaels' name came up a bunch. So
Yeah.
it
A
was
great
definitely.
option. Great first option.
Yeah,
Iconic match.
absolutely. And at the time, people were saying, well, what happened to this match or what happened to that match? A lot of them involved Hogan, a lot of them involved The Rock. But at that time, both Rock and kind of Hogan were not really shown in the best light. So it made more sense to go with this match for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I can only assume that they're going to do that again this year, right? So we got about 5 or so months left before they start peppering in the Hall of Fame inductees list. So I thought it would be a good idea to go around and see what match we think best qualifies for the Hall of Fame and potentially would be next. Obviously, any one of these matches that we're going to list could be the next one that they decide. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of aesthetics and things like that, marketability that they factor in for sure. Last year, WrestleMania was in Nevada. Stone Cold doesn't want to leave Nevada, so I believe that that also played a big role in that. So I'm going to kind of throw out the politics and all that stuff, and we're just going to go what matches deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And then C Rod and I are going to bounce off each other. You guys comment in the comment section below, and we'll see if we all can agree. The best thing about it, though, is that, again, any of these matches that we list for sure will be in the Hall of Fame one day if they keep doing it, which I imagine that they will. I've got no reason to
Yeah.
think that they wouldn't.
So
So
I actually
go
have a
ahead.
question for you, Gino. Before you kind of get into your list, what makes a match Hall of Fame worthy to you, or at least from your perspective of making this list?
So I appreciate the question. Obviously, WWE has set the precedent by being an in-ring story told classic that then reverberated or whatever you want to say out into history with the Stone Cold Bret Hart double turn. So I kind of took into effect obviously the in-ring work, the ability to entertain the crowd, the
Yep.
historical significance of that. How did it change wrestling moving forward? How did it change wrestling moving forward? Or did it just was it just in a vacuum a great match? So for me it was as I look down the list here, it's going to be all-time classics, false finishes, stuff that you look back on today. Some of them even the build-up package, the video package
Yeah.
that they did for them also was pretty big. Now, I don't think you could put something in the Hall of Fame from like 2007 on. It feels like it's probably going to have to be before that.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily have that in the back of my mind, but it was like a subconscious thought as I had picking these. Now, how about you? What went into your decision making?
A little bit about of the same, for me, it's like, what match, if somebody's never watched wrestling before, and I've had this pop up a lot, especially now that I've got back into wrestling, what match can I show somebody to like captivate them? Is it just something that's so brutal, you're like, holy crap, they don't do that anymore? Or is it something that's so technical, like, wow, That's what wrestling is. So that's kind of like my first, aspect there. But then, like you mentioned, the the impact that it has, or the significance that it has, when we talk about the Attitude Era, and you mentioned not before 2007. So a lot of these that we grew up with in the late 90s, early 2000s, was it a first? Did it change? Was it the match that brought Stone Cold over, or Rock over, or whatever it might be? But did something shift? Was it the first women's match? Did something shift in wrestling after that match? And I think that that's another big part of how I chose these matches.
All right, awesome, man. I really appreciate that. You gave me a lot to think on. I really feel like our lists are going to be very similar. Maybe we should have done 10, but we're challenged to find five matches, and we're going to come up with a consensus one or two together. So stay tuned. Here we go. I'm going to get right into it. I don't really have these in any particular order, but they all, for one reason or another, hold a special place in my heart. Now, the first match that I'm going to bring up is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 25. Like, it was just an all-time classic. It affected wrestling maybe in a bad way because of all the false finishes that it had, and it kind of created this sense of you have to like do false finishes to be a big match. Now, another match on my list has this even before that match, but this was really the one that's kind of cited as affecting wrestling. I don't want to say ruining, even though Shawn Michaels and Undertaker would say that it might have helped ruin wrestling a little bit. I don't think so. It was a great match there. So do you happen to have this on your list? If you do, we'll just go into talking about that. If not, I will move on.
I do not. It was one that I considered. It made maybe my top 10, but it did not make the three, to four that I wanted to present today.
Okay, awesome. So I will go down, and if it does match, we'll throw it over you. If not, we'll give you your list here at the end. So the next match um, that I chose is I wasn't sure that they'd be able to do it until the controversy was over with one of the individuals. You could argue both, but it's The Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18. If we did this video last week, Hogan would have still been alive when we did this.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his friends, and all the Hulkamaniacs out there who are affected. But I didn't think that WWE would introduce a Hulk Hogan Hall of Fame match into the Hall of Fame until he had passed. And now that he has, right, this match is on the table in my mind.
Yeah.
And so this was the double turn. Rock was supposed to be the good guy. Hogan was supposed to be the bad guy. The crowd in attendance wanted Hogan. I talked about it last night on the No DQ review. Like, this was like the first pay-per-view that I begged to buy. I begged my mom to buy. I was like, we need to know who the best wrestler is. And my mom was like, well, if it's all, uh, kayfabe, right? If it's all whatever, how does that make a difference? Like, how do you know who really the best is? And like, tried to explain it. They're like, oh, well, how tough they are kicking out and whatever, whatever. And it was just a fantastic experience. Now, this match is higher on my list as far as what I think the WWE might pull the trigger on this year. But is this match on your list?
This match is my number four, so just outside of my top three. I actually just got goosebumps just thinking about you talking about it. The whole Rock's goosebumps. It was just an electric match. It wasn't the best technically, sound wrestling match. We're talking Hogan, we're talking Rock. It's already been documented how, they're not the best technical wrestlers, but just the electricity in the arena. You talk about coming off the heels of WrestleMania 17, which people talk about as being one of the best WrestleManias ever, and it's like, okay, how do you top that? How do you go bigger? Well, Rock versus Hulk Hogan. You can't go much bigger than that. And just like you mentioned, there was a big expectation going into the match of who was who. And I think that's one of the earliest times that at least I can remember, because we talk about the crowd affecting Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Well, the crowd kind of affected that match in the sense that WWE probably wanted them to cheer for The Rock, and here they are cheering for Hulk Hogan. You know what I'm saying? And it was just something that was so unexpected. They did not expect the crowd to behave that way. And it just made for just an electric match. Every punch thrown, every Hulk up or look to the crowd, they're just sitting there staring at each other for minutes on end, just soaking up that atmosphere. It was a great match, and like you mentioned, now that Hulk Hogan has passed, you can see how much they are honoring him the last few weeks, not only just on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, what have you, but they could bring him in this year as a match, using a Hulk Hogan match and kind of giving him that final push that he deserves and uh, looking past, all the politics and other negative press that he had and just actually honoring what he meant to the wrestling community.
Awesome. Okay, so that is the first match that we both have on our list here. I'm very surprised that Taker Michaels Mania 25 isn't on your list, but I look forward to seeing what did make the cut for sure. So the next match that I have on my list is probably my favorite match of all time. All right. This was when I was still a kid. I mean, most of these was when I was a kid, but I was still a kid, like really impressionable. Didn't know a whole lot about. I just knew that these two guys were awesome whenever I'd watch the occasional Raw, the occasional SmackDown. And that's Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17.
17, yeah.
The amount of false finishes in that match where I was at my dad's friend's house. He had ordered the pay-per-view and we were watching it. And like, it was just, we were all on the edge of our seats. Definitely thought it was over. Here, it's over. It's over here. They're doing each other's finishers to each other. Like, that was almost like unheard of at the time. I mean, I was young. I don't really remember if they were doing that before that, but this match has that impact on wrestling history because in video games after that you started to be able to do your opponent's finisher and all of those things. Like, it really changed. And when you see now somebody do another move that's to the opponent who's that's their move, like, it's carries a little bit of extra weight, right? Like
Yeah.
Roman Reigns did the Crossroads and Cody Rhodes, didn't work, usually never does work on them, but then he's like, oh, that move stinks. Like, it really influenced the business and not just on-screen product, but video games and all that stuff as well.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't address really the Hogan Rock effect on wrestling. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but this match, it had the My Way intro video, which is, if you
All
can
time.
watch that
All
and
time.
all you need to do is just watch that. And if that doesn't get you hyped, like, you don't have a pulse because that is fantastic. So I'm going to throw it over to you. Did this match make your list?
It did not make my top three, but only because Stone Cold is already in the Hall of Fame with the match. And at least for me personally, I don't want to, you could throw so many matches out there to be a Hall of Fame worthy match. And I just don't want them to keep bringing the same people in, right? So Stone Cold Brett, and then you could do Stone Cold Rock, you could do Stone Cold this, you could do Stone Cold that. So absolutely one of the best matches of all time, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. It's one of my favorite. I think it's the best that Rock and Austin ever had. I hate, just like so many other people do, the heel turn that came from Austin. Everybody believes that that was the wrong move, especially Austin himself. But I kept it off my list simply for the fact that I wanted to try and keep this list separate from wrestlers that have already gotten it. I know there's only two, but that's why I left it off.
Okay. So, spoilers, we probably don't have Brett versus Owen on your list then.
I
All
don't.
right.
I don't.
No.
It's there. I almost did, but same thing. I just didn't want to put Brett on again.
Hmm.
I
And
put a lot of thought into this.
sure. And I respect that. And that's what we like to do. We like to actually come in here with some thought put into this, guys. We hope that you're enjoying. Let us know what you think. Comment, like the video, do all that fun stuff. We look forward to reading those. Now, the next match that I have, fits your qualification of not having somebody who's repeated. And this match was, it's one of those matches where if somebody can take the brutality of it, this is one of the first matches you show somebody, probably a young boy, right, between the ages of like 7 and 12, this match, and they will be a wrestling fan. And that is Mankind versus The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Okay. This match went off the rails in all the right ways. The cage wasn't supposed to break when he chokeslammed him on it. And he fell down onto the tacks in what looked like about as clean of a way as you could do that, as planned out and thought out. But nope, just happened. And then you've got video games where that's like a big selling point is you can chokeslam somebody through the top of the cell, you can get out of the cell, all of these stuff. He was thrown off the cell, brought back, climbed up, thrown through again, like was carried out, stretched it out, whatever, came back. Like Mankind really showed that he was willing to put it all on the line for the fans and entertainment because especially at that time, wrestlers didn't look like Mankind, right? They were jacked up, swole, really tall, larger than life, and Mankind was just kind of your everyman, right? He was, had a little bit of the twisted gimmick and whatever, but that really, it was so influential because to this day, it's probably the best, still the best Hell in a Cell match. I mean, there have been great ones after that, and I'd take nothing away from Punk and Drew. I take nothing away from Brock and Punk. I take nothing away. Well, I guess Punk's a big selling point in Hell in a Cell. If the Fiends match, or what about Cody and Seth? All
Beth?
those matches are great, but
Yeah.
Undertaker Mankind really set the bar for that, and it was like for its time, like the best thing they could have done. Like it's bloody, it's gruesome, it's heart, it's intensity, it's it's good versus evil, it's willpower, it's just all the things that like, and nobody can look at you and be like, wrestling's fake. When you're watching this match, nobody's gonna sit there and be like, that's fake, that's fake, that's fake, that's fake, that's fake. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. Like when they can make it look real, or in this case, when it's actually people falling from great heights and risking their lives, like there's something visceral about that.
Yeah.
So, is this on your list?
100%. 100%. When I mentioned showing people this as like a first match, welcome to wrestling, like this is my go-to, and one of the things that I always love is watching this as a kid, right? Just being like, what just happened? Oh, he's dead. He threw him off the cage. I mean, JR makes everything better too in that match.
My
But
God, he's broken in half.
I just remember, sitting there like, what just happened? Dude got thrown off, and then, like you mentioned, they stretcher him out. Here comes this crazy, insane dude back into the ring. They get up there. I mean, if he rotates, a few degrees any different way, Mick Foley's probably breaking his neck. He could die. I loved all of the documentaries that came out afterwards, the behind the scenes to where they started talking about the match, how Taker was originally injured. They didn't know how they could make this match memorable. And somebody tells Mick Foley, hey, start on top of the cage. Nobody's done that before. And so Taker's like, oh, my knees hurt. I don't know, but I just got up there because that's what we do. And to just watch Taker throw him through the cage and stand there like, what just happened? Then you got thumbtacks, and it just keeps going and going. The shot with Mick Foley with his tooth through his lip or through his nose, like it's just one of the most insane matches we will ever see. There will never be a match like that, especially in today's wrestling. But iconic. It took steel cage matches and elevated them so much more because you think steel cage, okay, great, it's a little bit there, but you put that cell on top of it, and now it's every Hell in a Cell match has to live up to this legacy that they started. Where hey, this needs to be one of the most brutal matches that a man could have in his career, and we have seen that over and over and over again, like you just mentioned especially in today's wrestling landscape with Cody and Seth and Drew and Punk, making it as brutal as you can make it in today's tenure.
Thank you, C Rod. So that's two. now that we have on each other's list. And I'm going to go up to the last one here. I'm going to take us right back again to WrestleMania 17.
Mm,
The
yep.
important thing about stuff like Hell in a Cell and Elimination Chamber and whatever is when you've got a feud or multiple people, like I'll always remember, I mean, this one might have to be an honorable mention because it's coming to my mind right now, but when you've got a feud or a number of people that need to hash it out and all active in the storyline. And in this situation, you've got three of the best teams ever, even at that time. And there was only one way to solve it. And I'm talking about the Dudleys or Team 3D Masters of the Table, talking about the Hardy Boys, the Masters of the Ladders, and I'm talking about Edge and Christian and the Masters of the Chairs in a TLC tables, ladders, and chairs match at WrestleMania 17. It was it was like watching your favorite Mortal Kombat character bring their weapon to the fight, and it was like everybody had their it was a full spectrum of an experience for the wrestlers, for the fans, like whether you were a Hardy Boy. I mean, I loved all of these teams. ENC were kind of like the bad guys, but the was up from the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys. Jeff Hardy was the coolest thing ever, and maybe the biggest what if in wrestling history if he had his stuff together. But you've got the spear off the top when he was holding Devon's holding the title. I mean, like they did a lot of stuff in this match that would have been still considered innovative today. We
Yeah.
have since had numerous other TLC matches, and finally TLC is getting honored on SummerSlam on a PLE. Finally, when we had one and it didn't even make the main event card, it was just crazy. Uh, so I put this one on my list because that was also one of my favorite matches of all time between six of my favorite people, and I think Rhino was involved, Spike Dudley, things like that, Lita, all that stuff. So like, I mean, who didn't love Lita back then? So the TLC between the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian met WrestleMania 17. It just paved the way. Again, that was something that you wanted to do in every video game. You wanted to load up a TLC match. You wanted to climb because not only because it wasn't like it had the best, and we know what TLC is now, but it has the best component of a ladder match where you have to climb and get the titles. It has the tables where you don't, going through a table doesn't lose you the match, but
Right.
it adds that extra impact. Like it was just a
Get to
ladder
see it
match.
over and over and over again, somebody going through the tables, which makes it so much better.
Exactly. And then you don't get that in a traditional ladders match. And
Yeah.
they don't really have a chairs match.
Mm.
So you really got a lot of new ideas and innovative stuff and listening to, like you said, the behind the scenes stuff, how they're calling this match. Devon's afraid of heights, didn't want to do it. Like it's just, it was just fantastic. And it'll always hold a special place in my heart, dude, doing the Hardy Guns, and it was just, man, it just so spectacular.
Yep. Yep.
Is this on your list, C-Rod?
Absolutely. WrestleMania 17, I think this match to me was even better than Rock Austin. Rock Austin captured that main event. I don't remember if this was first or somewhere early on. I don't think it, no, I don't think it was first, maybe like second or third. I just rewatched it, but like you said, just iconic. I mean, the spear off the thing, Jeff Hardy going up on that, I don't know, 25-foot ladder and senton bombing. I think there were two people, maybe it was Spike and somebody else. But just taking that leap off the senton, off the massive ladder, Spike Dudley coming in and bulldogging, maybe it was Rhino off of the edge of the ring onto a table outside. Like just it was crazy. It elevated not only tag team wrestling at the time, but also all three of those teams are now iconic, tag team matches from that. And the thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that was TLC 2, right? The year before or the summer before, they had their first TLC match, and while that was great, they came in and did it again and went even bigger and better. And I remember the spot where like Jeff Hardy was trying to walk on top of the ladders and he lost his balance, but what was he going to try and do there? Like jump and try and catch the belt? I don't know. There was always something changing in that match, and I'm pretty sure I just watched that match a few weeks ago, and it's a top for sure. I don't think I don't since everybody in there is still wrestling and for different promotions, I don't think that they would bring this into the Hall of Fame yet. But once all six of those guys are done, because they're all at the tail end of their careers, I could see WWE bringing this in as a match.
All right. Sounds good. So that's the end of my list. I want to hear the last two that are on your list. Obviously, those two aren't on my list, and so we will take the three that we have crossed over and decide which one of the best fits that description.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, what are your
So
final two matches in no particular order?
yeah, officially on my list was Taker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell, Rock Hogan. We talked about, Rock Stone Cold. We talked about. I was very close to putting the Shawn Michaels match. Very close to putting Bret Hart, Owen Hart. So those all kind of came off. But really, for me, and I guess this is there. I only have one. I just have one that we didn't really talk about because the other four we've talked about in some length. But the number one match for me, and this is one of my favorite matches. I don't think that it will ever be a Hall of Fame match simply because Triple H is in it, and we already know how Triple H feels about you know representing himself. Even just to get him into the Hall of Fame was a lot of other people in the back doing it. But Triple H versus Cactus Jack, Royal Rumble 2000. That in the garden with the thumbtack spot getting pedigreed, the barbed wire baseball bat to the face afterwards, and just seeing everybody bloodied. We talked about storytelling coming up where uh, Triple H had been beating up Mankind every week, with DX and everything, all of it for him to finally re-unleash this persona of Cactus Jack, Miss Foley's baby boy, right? I think that was also kind of the night that Triple H became the game. He was getting that top heel push in 2000s, and this just violent, brutal elevation of a match stands out to me, and I think that's one that cemented Triple H as the game, and Mankind can just elevate anybody. Especially back then in the day where, like you mentioned, he is by no means a wrestler. He does not look like any wrestler you would imagine, but he could still get in there and go.
Well done, well done, awesome. So obviously that's not on my list, but it was definitely an all-time
Yeah.
classic, and I agree with you. Yeah, if something with Triple H in it doesn't feel like it's going to be in the Hall of Fame for quite some time. Now, what is your last match on your list?
So I have a too soon match, and I'm also very shocked that you didn't mention CM Punk and John Cena, but we could talk about that later. But I have a too soon match, and this match is too soon because it's only from WrestleMania 39. But to me, and I talked to you a few episodes ago about getting back into wrestling, and it was around that time when I was just starting to watch the live PLEs again. But Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, I know that people talk about this as maybe one of the best women's WrestleMania matches ever, but just what a powerhouse of a match. I remember obviously I knew who Charlotte Flair was by her name. I hadn't really known who Rhea Ripley was yet. And watching this match with no expectations at all other than, hey, let me get back into wrestling, I was just like, I was blown away. Wow. What a match. Definitely a real passing of the torch there from Charlotte to Rhea, and Rhea exploded after that uh, way too soon, but potentially in the future, going back and looking at that match as one of the top women's WrestleMania matches ever.
I love that. Now, as far as Cena Punk goes, I could have chose Money in the Bank. I could have chose that February 13th match on Monday Night Raw, which is arguably their best match in my opinion. I could have chose any of those things. I just don't feel like with it being Cena's last year. and CM Punk still being active. I just don't think that they're going to be like that's kind of
Fair.
one of the things I took into consideration. Like,
Yeah.
I could have put the Roman Reigns. I mean, even Roman and Cody. I could have done some of those other things, but that's the only reason why my boy John Cena didn't make my list anywhere. You could argue that Cena's match with JBL nobody liked, but it led to Cena becoming, you know, Super Cena instead of the Doctor of Thugonomics, all those things. But in the effort of time, we're gonna go in and we're gonna go and take our three. Well, it's really two. We're not gonna do the Dudleys, Hardys, and Edge and Christian Mania 17 TLC 2 because, like you said, it just doesn't make sense for them to put this in with at least with Edge and Christian in TNA,
Yeah.
right? The Dudleys and the Hardys are going at it one more time. Did I say TNA? I meant AEW.
AEW.
Yeah, Dudleys and Hardys are in TNA.
Yeah.
So it's really Mankind versus The Undertaker Hell in a Cell, or it's Rock versus Hogan WrestleMania 18. Now, I'm very surprised that neither of us put WrestleMania 3 Hogan Andre. I You could argue that that match will make it in before either of these two, but we obviously weren't alive back then, and
Right.
it doesn't play as big of a role in us. So I
Yeah.
think if I had to put money on it, it's Hogan Andre at WrestleMania 3 is what they do this year. But I think that the Mankind versus Undertaker Hell in a Cell match is still a little too brutal right now. I think that they're, while it deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I still think we need another year or two in Netflix's era before encouraging people to go back and watch that who might be a little young for that. Right.
Yeah.
I know that it's not a match I would show, say, my girlfriend, right? Be trying to get into wrestling. It's very brutal and she's just not into that type of stuff. The Rock versus Hogan, you could feel the electricity like we talked about on the No DQ review last night. If you were watching that event at a sports bar or whatever, even the waitresses were watching that match because of how crazy it was. So honestly, the only reason it wouldn't make it is because The Rock is still very heavily involved, and maybe he has the same level of I don't want to put my matches in there yet. But of the matches that we have, I'm going to say that Rock Hogan Mania 18 is the consensus between the both of us. Obviously, I'm going to throw it to you in a second, but I
Yeah.
think that that makes the most sense from what we've decided. Though I still feel like it's they're going to do Hogan Andre first, or maybe even WrestleMania One's main event with Mr. T and Roddy Piper and stuff. But as
Yeah.
far as match, based on the precedent that was set, in ring classics as well as importance to the business. And you can tell me Hogan Rock isn't an in ring classic all you want, and I'm just going to say pish posh to that because you don't have to be the smoothest in ring worker or the most technical wrestler to freaking make a good match. It's professional wrestling, right? You could even say some of the best football NFL matches have the worst defenses of all time. Like you're giving up 51 to 49 points. Like that shouldn't be a it should be a 3-5 game or something like that. That's a real no, like this is Hogan Rock, Mania 18, the double turn, where in the next night he gets rid of the black and white and goes back to the red and yellow. Bro, it's just iconic. So do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think of what we've got going on here?
No, I think you made great points. You could take so many Hogan matches, and I do agree. I think this year they probably lean into the Hogan thing, and they choose a match that is Hogan-esque. And the biggest thing for us is our age. You know, we didn't see WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We didn't catch any of those. We didn't catch any of the classics. Macho Man, Piper, Hogan. You could go on and name them all. But with what we have in front of us, I think Hogan Rock would make the most sense. I could also, well, I don't think that Rock would have any problem putting one of his matches into the Hall of Fame. We know how full of himself he is, and he likes to be the spotlight and the talk, and I mean, by all means, he needs some redemption from, you know, what's happened from the fallout from WrestleMania last year to now. So who knows? You know, maybe he would agree to that, so that way he's shown in a better light than he was in the last year or so. But out of what we have on our list, Rock Hogan just it makes the most sense. I do think that the Hell in a Cell match is too brutal. You're also saying hell, I know that's not a big word, but maybe they don't want to promote that, during their Hall of Fame. You could argue that the Brett Stone Cold match, they have Stone Cold bloodied and they showed a lot of blood, but still nowhere as near as brutal as the Hell in a Cell. So I concur. For us in this moment, Rock Hogan would make the most sense of being the first of these matches to get that recognition.
Awesome. Well done. So yeah, we are getting close to out of time here. So it looks like our list consisted of Taker and Michaels Mania 25. It consisted of Rock Austin Mania 17. TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. You had Triple H and Cactus Jack Royal Rumble 2000. You had Rhea versus Charlotte at Mania 39 as a too soon choice. Maybe we can do that for as a topic for another week. And we also had Mankind versus Taker Hell in a Cell, but we have established that between our two lists, the most likely match that will be in the Hall of Fame next year or this year, however you want to look at it, is Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18 in Canada. And yeah, I'd still put money on Hogan Andre, but that didn't make either of our lists again because our list was very clearly in that era of when we were, 6, 7, 8 years old and to like high school age. So where
Yep.
can the people find you, C Rod?
You can now follow me at Crods Pod on Instagram or go on Spotify or anywhere you listen to your podcasts and listen to the Bro You Good podcast, released about a month ago, and we're moving along.
Awesome. Guys, go check that out. It's a really good listen and it's important for men's mental health. So you guys can find me. Forget to like and subscribe and comment below on everything and let us know what you thought. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.